its meeting on Monday the 23rd of March. My name is Councillor Victoria Alcock and I'm the chair of this committee. Alongside members of the committee, I'm joined today by Marcia Eccleston, the Head of Law and Governance and the Monitoring Officer, Richard Burrell, Head of Resources and our S151 Officer, Sam, I don't think he's here at the moment, and we have Paul Clark, Warwickshire County Council Internal Audit Manager, welcome Paul, Lauren Hills, Elections Officer, Kira Keller from Democratic Services, and we have Mason Ash here from Democratic Services Manager. So welcome everybody. Committee members, when invited to address the meeting, please ensure your microphone is switched on so that it's picked up via the live audio feed. When you have finished addressing the meeting, please turn off your microphone immediately. And please ensure you have switched off or turned to silent any of the devices you have which may interrupt the proceedings. Please note, this meeting is also being broadcast live and members of the public not in attendance today are able to view the proceedings. We'll now move on to the agenda. Item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence, please.
We have apologies from Councillor Hencher-Serafin and Mr McAllister-Smith.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, disclosure of interest, please. Do any committee members have any interest they'd like to declare in relation to items on the agenda? There were no declarations of interest. Thank you. Right, item 3, the minutes. Are there any points members wish to raise on the minutes? Please indicate. Otherwise, I will take the minutes as noted, please. Councillor Keithley, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I remember raising an issue about the membership of outside bodies, and I raised it at OSC because I seem to recall that my name was down for the recycling centre, and I was told it wasn't down, but I think it might have been. So I don't know if you've changed the detail. Could I ask the monitoring officer whether or not that's right and it's been changed?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor. Just to confirm, I have asked for it to be changed. I haven't looked to make sure it has been changed, but I have asked for it to be changed, and I'll certainly check that again when we finish at the end of this meeting. Okay,
well, as we discussed that in the minutes of those meetings, then I think that needs to be reflected in the minutes. I don't think it is it?
But that I think we will look at changing on your behalf. No problem at all. We can get that sorted and make sure it is registered correctly in the minutes of today's meeting.
Well, on that basis, then I'm happy with the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Keithley. Any other points on the minutes, please? Okay, no other points. Thank you very much, members. Item 4, public participations. Questions from the public? I haven't received any. Item number 5, we'll move on to the update on the standards and governance issues. Can I please invite our monitoring officer, Marcia Eccleston, to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the report is before you, and obviously I know you would have read it, so I'm not going to go into everything in painstaking detail, but I will just pick out a few points. Just on table 1A, which is on page 9 of your bundle, things move on. So at the point in time where this was prepared, it looked as though we had a number of matters ongoing. Just to say that some of them have been dealt with and closed. And in terms of that, in time for the next report that comes before you, I will update accordingly. And then I just wanted to pick up on page 3, which is 1B. The heading references the outcome of strengthening standards and conduct framework for local authorities. So this links directly back to something I brought last year, which was an update from the government to say that they were consulting on how they could strengthen the framework for conduct and standards for local authorities. And so what you see before you are bullet points of where they've got to following that consultation. So they are looking to legislate to make some of the changes that you can see on the various bullet points. Again, I wasn't planning on going through it because I know you would have read much of it, but if you do have any questions, I'm more than happy to look at that. I can see you've got your hand up.
Okay, Councillor Kate Rolfe, please.
Thank you. My question's to Marcia, if that's okay. So these amendments to strengthen the standards and conduct framework, do you have an idea when they might come into effect? Are we looking at months or are we looking at years?
So the actual link that I provided in the paperwork said that the government are looking at how they will legislate for it. They've given no time or date, so therefore it means I can't at the moment. And right at the bottom of the representations, I have explained that as soon as I have more information, I will come back and update you all.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments, please, on the update and standing government issues? Any questions for clarification, councillors? Councillor Strander, please.
Hi, thank you. This is also a question for the monitoring officer. So I understand that you can't give us a timeline yet, but if this were to happen before local government reorganisation, I'm just wondering, this describes this set of measures as a whole system reform, and so I'm wondering how much more work this is likely to create, and if this were to happen before reorganisation, would you foresee any obstacles in terms of resourcing to implement this whole system reform?
Thank you, Councillor. I think that's a very valid point to make, and I think that it's obviously one step at a time with this sort of thing. LGR is the priority. There's been no indication that all of this would happen before LGR, and I certainly hope it doesn't. But if it did, we would certainly be shouting up for resources to yourselves as members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, councillors? Right, then the recommendation is that the information appendix 1 of the report be noted. Thank you. Do you need a proposer and a seconder if it's noted? Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please, that this report has been noted? Proposer, Councillor Littlewood, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Rolfe. And all members, please to show hands if they agree. Thank you, that is unanimous. We take that report is noted. Right, item 6, the new corporate CCTV is a new, thank you. And again, I'm going to ask Monitoring Officer Marcia Eccleston to present this report. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you, Chair. Community safety is one of the areas within the organisation that sits within law and governance. So the manager for that is not here because he has another pressing meeting that he's had to attend to as well. He did say to me he might not be able to get back, so that's why I'm speaking briefly on it. So what you have before you is a procedure, a CCTV procedure, and we call it CCTV because it actually covers CCTV as we know it, a sort of that you would normally expect to see, but it also covers surveillance, so body-worn cameras, etc. And this is born out of, this procedure is born out of recognising that body-worn camera isn't just used by law and governance, it can be used by other departments across the organisation as well. And what we didn't have before is something streamlined to bring that together so there was a level playing field about how we should work with all of this sort of kit going into the future. So what Sam has done, working with other departments across the organisation and also consulting with certain key members and portfolio holders, is pull something together that would fit the criteria and best practice. And I say best practice because some of that's born out of Audit, and Audit will speak to some of their findings that they found later. So with that, we've built into the procedure you see before you something which should cover largely all bases about how we make sure that we standardise best practice when we use this sort of kit, such as body-worn video, how we sort of record it in and record it out, and what we can do to make things better when we collate evidence.
Thank you for that. I'll open up to questions from the table, please. Councillor Foytick, you have a question.
Yeah, it's just some points for clarification. And obviously Sam's not here, so quite happy for those clarifications to be sort of made after the meeting. So the procedure itself appears sort of clear and well structured. But just from an audit perspective, I've got a few points of clarification. Could members have sight of the 2025 internal audit? Or did that come out at a previous meeting that I didn't attend? The findings and sort of confirmation that any recommendations may have been implemented in the report. And also the report states that there are no data protection implications, but CCTV clearly involves personal data under UK GDPR. So it would be helpful to understand that position. And finally, given the nature of CCTV, it would be helpful if anyone can expand on how risks have been assessed. Just points for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions, and obviously more detail about what you require I can get to you after the meeting. What I will explain is that there are CCTV related reports that do come to this meeting and have come in the past. There's one limb of CCTV which is around I'm going to say the cameras that you see around the district, which has come here before, and you'll see that some of the members are nodding around that. I'm more than happy to try and get you a copy of that if that's what you require to see. In terms of data protection and DPIA requirements, information governance also sits within law and governance. And what I would say is that one of the things that we are very clear on is if we're going to use that sort of gathered information or the CCTV in any way, shape or form, there is always a consideration about the DPIA or GDPR considerations as well. So in terms of getting the specific information, I will ask Sam about that and respond back to you. But I just wanted to make those general points in the first instance.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, members? Right, that the recommendation is that the corporate CCTV procedure be approved. Can I have a proposer, please, for that? Councillor Keithley, thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ostrander. And all in favour, please, members? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, on to item 7. Recent judgment, implications for litigators at Stratford-on-Avon District Council. I now hand over to the Monitoring Officer, Martin Eccleston, to please present the report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is, if you like, an update report, which you need to know as members of the Committee for Audit and Standards, because it is a governance point. The case that's referenced in here, Mazur, is really a very straightforward case. It was to do with debt recovery at the end of the day. But what it highlighted was whether or not some of the legal advisors who were supporting had authority to litigate in relation to the debt. And since that case has come out, there has been challenge. And I think I've referenced here that in this report, and I'm just looking where I may have referenced it, but there should be a reference in the report to the fact, yes, it's 1.114, that the Chartered Institute for Legal Executives have appealed the decision that's come out of that. And we are awaiting what that judgment looks like, because what that judgment looks like may mean that we need to review the way that we do business here. Now, what I would say is the way that we do business here so far is perfect, in the sense that I've referred to it as low risk here, because what that case was talking about was two types of authorisation to do litigation. The first type is the type which is allowed under legislation, the Legal Services Act. And I'm putting aside barristers at the moment. I'm just talking about solicitors and the type, who have a right to litigate, go to court and deal with litigation in relation to civil and criminal related matters, so long as they've had the appropriate training. So that wasn't the issue. And as you know, we've got a whole legal department here, so you can see why I'm saying we're low risk here, sort of thing. But there are some exempt groups that also have a right to litigate as well. And they are referenced, and I've referred to it under the Act here. So at 1.6, I've referred to Section 2.2 and Section 223 of the Local Government Act, which say that certain people can be designated to have rights to litigate. And we have that here. It went through the regulatory committee, and one of our trainee solicitors was given such a right to go and do such cases. So you can see we're fairly watertight around the way that we do things. The issue is, what might it look like at the end of that case that we're talking about? So if you like, this is a heads up to you all, that we may be coming back if, for instance, we do have to look at things going forward.
Thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions for this, please? Councillor Wojcik, please.
You probably answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway again. Can you provide assurance that there's a clear and auditable record of who is authorised and exempt to conduct litigation across all current cases?
I certainly can. For those who are solicitors or barristers working for us, I give a delegation because I have certain authorisations under the Constitution, and there is a sub-delegation to the legal team to do certain acts on behalf of the council. So that audit trail definitely exists. And I think I've just explained that there was a trainee solicitor who's now qualified now, but wasn't at the time, who had her authorisation under this provision that I mentioned under the LGA that had approval through the regulatory committee.
Thank you. Members, do you have any other questions for the monitoring officer or on this? Right, we have two recommendations, please. The first one, that the content report be noted, and the second, that the paragraph 1.15 in the report be approved. Would you like them taken separately, monitoring officer, or together? Together. Can I have a proposer, please, members? Councillor Fradgley, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Organ, thank you very much. And all in favour of that, please? That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 8, please, members, on the Constitution review. Can I please invite Martha Eccleston, the monitoring officer, to present this report?
Councillors, before you, there are probably 8 appendices where there have been slight amendments made to the Constitution. Most of them very necessary because of requirements under legislation. I know you will have read them, so I wasn't going to go into the detail of all of them before you. What I was proposing to do, if anything, is take questions if you had any on any points in particular against any of the appendices, that I could then go into more detail. As I say, I don't want to insult your intelligence because you've read them all.
Okay, members, if you do have a question on one of the appendices of one of the 1 to 8 that we are looking at having amendments to, page number is always helpful if you have that. Members, do you have any questions on the Constitution review, please? Okay, thank you, members. That shows, and I'd like... Oh, Councillor Rolfe, you have a question, please.
Sorry, there was a question, and it's to Marcia, Chair, sorry. When a chair adjourns a meeting, would the chair need to discuss with you if it's appropriate to adjourn a meeting, or can a chair adjourn it for, I don't know, if somebody's being disruptive or there's a lot of noise or something, they can have their own reasons for adjournment of meetings, is what I'm trying to say.
So thank you, Councillor. Can I just clarify, is that linked to any of the appendices in particular, or is this more a general question?
Sorry. It was a link to committee chair's role definition on page 53. In other words, does an adjournment of meeting have to be constitutionally recognised?
So this question is a very important one, and I'll answer it, but I will just say this. This is already in the Constitution. It's not a change to the Constitution at all. So just to clarify, adjournment of meetings at committee might be slightly different, because if it's a committee or council or wherever it is, the chair would be the final arbiter about adjourning the meeting. So that's the first thing I'd say. But it's outside, if you like, the scope of any amendment, because this was already in the Constitution before. Okay.
Members, do you have any other questions or point of clarification on this constitutional review? I'd just like to take the moment then to say thank you to the officers who've worked on this. Our constitution is what governs us, and it is the most vital piece of information we have at this council, and I'm sure we all appreciate the work that goes in to make sure it is as tight as what we need it to be. So please do minute my comments and my thanks for that. So the recommendation is that the changes to the Council's constitution as detailed in Appendix 1 to 8 be approved, and that the leader's statement attached to Appendix 17 be noted. Can I please have a proposer for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Littlewood. And a seconder, please. Councillor Jenny Fradgley, thank you. Members, all in favour, please. Just to clarify, I beg your pardon, my fault. This is going to recommendation to council. Do we need? We don't need the proposer and seconder. I would still like the proposer and seconder from this committee to recommend to council. Councillor Littlewood, thank you. Councillor Jenny Fradgley, thank you. Members, all in favour of that, please. That is unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Item number 9, the Local Government Association guidance on parental leave for councillors and dispensation for consideration. Can I please invite Marcia Eccleston, the Monitoring Officer, to present this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the report that is before you actually takes its lead from best practice, really, from the Local Government Association guidance. So that guidance does talk about recognising that councillors should have certain supports in the case of paternity, maternity, adoption and parental leave. And what we've done is incorporated that into a report for you to see and approve today.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer. Members, do you have any points of clarification and questions? Councillor Organ, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, if I may ask about, it says in here that members must still inform the monitoring and get dispensation under the 6-month rule. So if a member does request parental leave for 6 months, are they informed that they still have to do this? Because I could see there being not understanding going on.
Okay. May I ask which page we're on, please? Which page are we on, please? Yes.
Page, it's on page 212.
212 is fine.
It's item 1.8 on 212, saying that the member should still notify the head of paid service of their intention. So are they informed of that when they actually apply for parental leave?
If I may, yes, they are, sort of thing. For those that it has applied to or it does apply to currently, they have been written to by myself and everything explained to them so that they're clear. And not just that, if, for instance, it is formally approved today, we will make sure that it's rolled out accordingly through group leaders, etc.
Councillor Rolfe, please.
Me again. 1.5 about a member, presumably within that 6-month period, they have to attend one meeting. Can they attend online or does it have to be in person? I mean, personally, I think it's awfully unfair that they have to attend a meeting whilst they're on maternity leave or paternity leave. But, I mean, incredibly unfair, but I guess that's the Local Government Act that has, yes, it is, 1972. It's a little bit out of date, isn't it, really? So can they attend online or does it have to be in person?
At the moment, it has to be in person. It doesn't mean that things might not be revisited in the future, but that's where it currently sits. I will just say this as well. Whilst the notification might be to the head of paid services or the monitoring officer, I just should add that it is actually the council, yourselves as members, who make that decision. So it would go off to full council and you would be making the ultimate decision as to whether or not to allow more time or not.
Sorry, to allow the decision of whether it's online or in person, or to allow that one-time meeting?
No. So I answered that question on the meeting and it being in person, but I wanted to clarify the point that on that 6-month rule, it's not an officer that makes that decision, it's yourself as full council. We'd have to take a paper to full council for you to consider.
So, in which case, can we change that rule as council?
No, because it's required under legislation at the moment.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Yes, I understand the decision ultimately comes down to the council, but the question has to be asked. And until legislation changes, we have to follow it. Members, do you have any further questions and clarifications on this part, please? Okay, then the recommendation that the content of this report be noted and approved. Can I have a proposer for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ostrander, and seconder, thank you, Jenny Fradgley. All in favour, please, members? That is unanimous. Thank you, members. Item 10, a subsidiary control update. Could I please invite Marcia Eccleston, the monitoring officer, to present this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think this might be my last one. So just...
We've got loads more coming in yet. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So on the subsidy control, I've attached a link that talks about the subsidy control regime, and that goes into quite a lot of technical detail. I wanted to keep it fairly high level because really what we were picking up was the requirement to do an assessment form, if you like, a principal assessments form. So just starting at the beginning so that you're all very clear. So subsidy control is something that public authorities like a local authority have to consider. It is, if we are looking at dealing with certain projects, for instance, if there is the potential offer of financial assistance, It can't be so that we are breaching rules on giving one company or one party an economic advantage, unless it meets certain criteria. So subsidy control is quite involved, and so today's meeting is not to go into all of that detail. What I will say is the guidance from the government is constantly training, and myself and also the Section 151 were at a training course, was it last week or this week? It was just last week, and they'd updated it again with more guidance. Was it about 3 weeks ago they changed it? So it's a living document, so this may change again, is what I'm trying to get at. But at the moment, they require a principal assessments form for those matters that meet the subsidy control criteria, which is referenced in this report. We would have to submit a principal assessments form, and I'll explain who the royal we is in a moment. But in effect, that report is almost a form that explains our justification within the legislation why we feel it's necessary to do that. And at the moment, the person referenced, as you would have seen from the draft amendments of the Constitution Review, that would be the Chief Exec on your behalf in consultation with myself and Richard as the Section 151 officer. That form would then be submitted to go on a government website, which is required by law. So this is informing you of that principal assessment of form that is required in the circumstances.
Thank you for that, Monitoring Officer. Members, do you have any questions for clarification on this report? Having looked through the form itself, I'm rather glad that it does go to anybody else but myself, to be honest. It's quite a hefty one to go through. If you've got no questions on that, recommendations that the content of this report be noted. Could I please have a proposer and a seconder, please, members? Proposer, please, Councillor Kate Rolfe, and a seconder, please, Councillor Stuart Keithley. And all in favour for that, please, members? Yep, that is unanimous. Thank you for that, members. Right. We are moving on to item 11, Community Governance Review of the Walford Joint Parish Council. Could I please invite Lauren Hills here to present the report? Thank you. Hello, Lauren.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to consider a community governance review request from the Walford's Joint Parish Council in regard to its current warding arrangements for Little Walford Ward ahead of the ordinary parish elections to be held in 2027. The request, as set out in the terms of reference at Appendix 1, is to add a second councillor for Little Walford Ward so that representation with regard to the wards of Great Walford and Little Walford are fair and proportionate. Therefore aligned with good governance principles. If the terms of reference are approved, a consultation period will run from the 7th of May to the 12th of June 2026, with the final decision taken by Council in July and any resulting changes implemented through a reorganisation order ahead of the May 2027 elections. The options are set out in the report, with paragraph 2.1 being the preferred option. The recommendation to Council is that the Community Governance Review for the Walford's Joint Parish Council be approved in accordance with the terms of reference set out in Appendix 1. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions regarding this? Councillor Keithley, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Lauren, what's how does the consultation process work in these sort of situations? Is it an online consultation through the SDC website, or is there a notice posted on the parish notice boards, or does everybody get a letter? How does it work?
There will be press releases and it will be on the website and on the notice boards, and we'll have a dedicated email address for people to submit any comments. Okay.
Members, do you have any queries about this? Thank you for that. I would say thank you, Councillor Wally Hoggins, for sending a detailed report through to myself and to the portfolio holder. It was appreciated. we had the recommendations. Lauren, would you like me to take those separately or as one vote? One vote is acceptable. Okay. This will be recommendations to council. Can I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Organ, thank you. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Ostrander. And all in favour, please, members. Did you? Sorry, Councillor Keith, I missed your hand. Yeah, thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you all for that. That brings us to the end of our standards part of the meeting. Councillor Foytick, you are welcome to stay for the audit part of the meeting if you wish to listen. I won't be taking comments for this part of it, but you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave. It's entirely up to you at this point. Right, you'll make a speedy exit. Thank you. Moving on then to item 12, please, the internal audit strategy for 2026-27. Can I please invite Paul Clark to present his report? Hello, Paul. Welcome to the meeting.
Hello, thank you, Chair. So it's that time of the year when we start to think about plans for internal audit for the forthcoming financial year. So what we need to undertake as an internal audit service is enough work during 26-27 to be able to give an evidence-based opinion on the control environment, risk management and control and governance processes for the council. So this sets out planned work that's been put together as a draft plan through consultation with the management of the council and the review of the council's risk registers. The detailed plan is encapsulated within the internal audit strategy, and the strategy for this year has been expanded a little bit to reflect the new global internal audit standards that came into effect from April 2025. So there are, on page 252, there's additional information around performance measures for the internal audit team, around training for the internal auditors and the code of ethics that the auditors are required to follow. Regarding the detail of the plan, the choice of audits for the year, on page 254, Annex 1 demonstrates the risk-based thinking behind the choice of topics and the links between the topics that have been proposed to the risks that the council faces. And then Annex 2 sets out the list of proposed audits with indicative timing, so which quarter of the year we plan to undertake the work in, so we get a smooth flow of work that we're able to bring through update reports to committee during the year. Overall, I'm happy that the resources are sufficient within the proposed plan and the arrangements that we've got in place for me to be able to undertake this work and to be able to use it to produce the annual report that will be required following the end of 26-27 financial year. We're also asking for approval of the internal audit charter, which is included as an appendix. The wording of the charter is unchanged from last year. It was updated to reflect the new standards last year, and we don't feel that there are any changes that we need to propose, so it's there for completeness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Paul. That is appreciated. I'll open up the floor to any questions that you may have, please, for Paul on this audit strategy, please. Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Chair. Paul, I've got a couple of questions, please. So on page 240, paragraph 1.4, about 3/4 of the way down, there's a statement that says, the committee is able to accept a plan on this basis, provided this matches its risk appetite. And I just wonder, I presume that is referring to this committee, and has the risk appetite for this committee been established at some point? Or is that something we should be discussing?
So it is a question for this committee, because you're approving the plan. I don't think there's a formal definition of what the risk appetite is, but what you need to be able to think about is looking at the list of audits that are going to be undertaken. Does that feel like it's going to give you sufficient breadth of coverage for the work that's been planned, and depth of coverage for you to feel comfortable that what we're proposing will give you what you need? What I produce at the end of the year is the annual report. It gives an opinion on the control environment, and then that is reflected in the annual governance statement as well. And it's whether you feel that overall that you're comfortable with those arrangements that we're proposing.
Thank you, Paul. Did you have a follow-up question, Councillor?
So I guess my question then is for us. Do we feel that there is sufficient breadth and depth? But I do have one or two other questions for Paul as well.
Okay, yeah, I think as a committee we do have the appetite to continue with this work as we are doing, because it is vital for us as a council, and also for our residents to see what we do. So yes, we do have to continue with audits. You have further questions, Councillor Ostrander?
I do, thank you. Through this report, Paul, you mention several times I spotted a phrase, hang on, limited audit resources, use of limited resources. At least 3 times I noticed that. And I know you just said in your presentation that you felt that you had sufficient resource. But because it is repeatedly mentioned, I just felt it was worth asking. Are you sufficiently resourced? And also, is that when you mention limited resources, limited audit resources, are you referring to us specifically or a national shortage of auditors? Can you just provide a bit more context on that, please?
Yeah, so the work that we do, it's planned and agreed with the council. So you know, the budget and the number of days that we're able to deliver, and what that means is when we undertake audit work, it's the work's undertaken on a sample basis. So we'll look at a sample of transactions. We won't look at all of them. We have to, you know, base the work on the resources that are available, and we also need to prioritise. So you'll see that there's also an annex which lists audits which we've discussed potentially doing, but we're not going to do because there has to be a cut-off somewhere where that line is. So I'm talking specifically about Stratford Council. It's not that there's a shortage of auditors. It's about that there is a defined level of resources which has been allocated, and what I'm reflecting is that I feel that is appropriate to the size of the council.
Lovely, thank you. I do have one more question, Chair, but I don't want to take up all the space on the floor. If anyone else wants to come in.
I will come to Councillor Rolfe for her question. I will come back to you, Councillor Ostrander. Okay, Councillor Rolfe, please.
Thank you, Chair. On page 258, the subject of planning enforcement, I mean, I think it's fair to say that most of us around this table have ongoing issues with planning enforcement. And I wondered why the looking at the timing of this is in Q3, and is there any possibility it can be brought forward earlier? Because I think it would help us all in our quest with our issues with enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Paul, I'm just going to bring Councillor Curtis forward for this part of it as portfolio holder. I do believe there is an answer to this question as he was signalling. Councillor Curtis, welcome to the table.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, first of all, again, I'd like to thank Paul for all the work that's been put into this report for us. There are, obviously, as you said, there have been a number of concerns expressed by members across the piece around the enforcement service here. This was also highlight at the extraordinary regulatory meeting, and again it came up at regulatory a couple of weeks ago. Bearing in mind Councillor Ostrander's comments about the limited but adequate resources, I think, Paul, what I would propose, if that would be acceptable to Paul and the committee, is that we look at receiving the report for planning enforcement in Q1 and switching that with the land charges and putting that report to Q3. I spoke briefly to Paul about that, and I think Paul's indicated, sorry, Paul, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you've indicated that would be possible within the work programme. Hope that's helpful.
If I can just have a follow-up to that, though. Q1 is sort of now-ish. Is there time and resources?
It's Q1 of the new year, the new financial year.
Paul, did you have a reply also for Councillor Rolfe on that?
Yeah, just to say that as far as our work is concerned, we just need to have a flow of work across the year to be able to meet the work plan. So if it was a proposal to swap planning from Q3 with something from Q1, then that would work for us. It would need to be consulted with the managers to understand whether there's a particular reason why they were suggesting Q3 to us when we were putting the plan together.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, did you want to come back in on that point?
Yes, that's much appreciated, Paul. And I think given the concerns that have been expressed by this committee and members across the piece, I think there is a real, or I certainly sense a feeling of urgency about this report. And that is not to say that the land charges report isn't equally important, but I think as a committee we'd like to see the enforcement prioritised if that's at all possible, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Did that answer your question, Councillor Rolfe? Are you happy with that? Did you want to come in on this point? Or actually, was your point related to this? No? Okay, thank you. Councillor Keithley, then your point on that, please.
Thanks, Chair. But just to remind everybody that we've had quite a few changes in enforcement recently, and also we've got a draft local enforcement plan that's out and being consulted that will come back to us quite soon. So the danger of bringing it forward is that the new way of working, potentially, hasn't had time to settle in. But, I mean, that's just a comment, really.
Thank you, Councillor Keithley, and I'm sure that will be taken into consideration as we go through the process, so thank you. I'll go back to my list of standard questions then. Thank you, Councillor Curtis, for answering those questions. Councillor Littlewood, please.
Thank you, Chair, through you. If I could ask Paul, and really it goes back to what Councillor Ostrander's questioning line was, because as I understand it, what you said was that you have sufficient resource to do the planned work as that resource stands today as you look at it. Okay, thank you. What is the risk, and is substantial monitor otherwise, with the fact that we're going towards the change of local government in reorganisation, and staff retention that you could lose your resource. What plan B do we have, if any, on that, please?
Yes, thank you. So there's always a risk of staff turnover within the team, and we manage that with bringing in new staff. We advertise vacant posts, but we also bring in agency staff where required to make sure that we can still deliver the work. I think one of the benefits of working in a bit larger team is that one person disappearing from our sort of team of 11 is less of an impact than it would be if we were on a small team just delivering the 305 days here. So we do have some resilience, even if we do get vacancies, we should be able to still be able to deliver the work that's required.
Thank you, Chair. So that's comforting to hear, but it's a real risk to the programme if you don't have people that can do that, and I think it's concerning not only me, and I sense Councillor Ostrander, but I think many of the people around this table, as we approach May 2027. I think this is going to be an issue that's going to become more and more critical, and I'd like to see some sort of assessment and at least a plan to protect this council as it goes forward, because it will continue as a shadow in any case, or rather the other way around. I think it's an important thing to note, and the committee may consider that to be an added item on the agenda or on the list of risk management.
Thank you, Councillor Littlewood. That is something I can definitely look into for us. Councillor Ostrander, you had another question, please?
Yes, I do. It's my last one. Thank you, Chair. This actually links with Councillor Littlewood's question too. On pages 254 and 255, Annex 1, each risk has a calculated net risk score. And interestingly, one of those risks is recruitment and retention of staff. Those numbers, a few questions about those numbers. What are they out of? What is the maximum score? And what does the size of the number indicate? Is a higher number a higher risk? Because if so, the highest number on that set of risks is recruitment and retention of staff. And how do you calculate that? So could you just provide a bit of context for that net risk score, please, Paul?
I can provide a bit of context. What I'm quoting within the strategy is the numbers that are produced by the council's own strategic risk register. So council's got its own risk management policy and approach and scoring mechanism. And what I'm doing here is quoting those and then reflecting how our internal audit coverage looks at some of those risks. I don't know whether any of the officers are able to say what the scoring is, whether it's 4x4 or 5x5. I can't remember off the top of my head what the process is at Stratford.
Thank you, Paul. Mr. Board, if I can bring you in, please.
Yes, thank you. I believe it's 4x4. So the one is the likelihood of it happening, and the other one is the size of the impact should it happen. So something may well happen but have little consequence, in which case it would be 4 times 1, a low score. If it was likely to happen and it would be very detrimental, it would be 4 times 4, which would be 16, which would be a high score, which would be a higher level of concern.
Okay, so just to clarify, then the maximum score here would be 16, and the higher the number, the higher the risk. Thank you. Okay, so the risk is quite high in terms of recruitment and retention of staff, then, according to this. In fact, it's the highest for all of the risks on these 4 pages. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Members, do we have any questions, queries regarding this, please? Okay, then the recommendation is to approve the proposed draft internal audit strategy for 2026-27 and two, to approve the audit charter, also part of the pack. I will take them both together, please, members. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Ostrander, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Rolfe, thank you. Do you not wish to second? Councillor Keithley, thank you. Yes, it will. Members, all in favour of that, please. Thank you all very much. Right, moving on to...
Chair, could you accept my apologies? I need to be at another meeting now. You let me release me. That would be great.
Of course, Councillor Wood, thank you for your time this afternoon. It is appreciated. Moving on to item 13, please. The Internal Audit Progress Report. I will again bring in Paul Clark to present his report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So a fairly brief report, but this provides an update on progress with the work in the current financial year, 25-26. So page 277 shows work that has previously been reported to committee, and then page 278 is the remainder of the audit plan for the year and what progress has been made since the last update was presented. So we're reporting here the conclusion of five pieces of work, and I can just sort of give a verbal update on some of the items within that. Some of the progress has been made since the papers were completed. So starting from the top, operational risk management, that's now final rather than draft, as is the homelessness report. That's now been issued as a draft report rather than just being in progress. And the CCTV and surveillance devices reports have both now been finalised. In terms of the ICT work at the bottom of the page, we're expecting the IT project management work to be completed by the end of this month, and then the other two audits we're expecting to be to flow over into the beginning of April, but we expect it to be completed by the end of April, and therefore be able to reflect on the outcomes of that when the annual report's produced to the July committee. So the only audit which is on the table as showing a lower moderate assurance is the one on surveillance devices, and that below the table we've set out some of the information on why it was a moderate assurance. It was good to see within the papers this afternoon a paper on CCTV, which has already been presented today and shows the progress that's being made since that report. So it was pleasing to see that today. I'm happy to take questions on the update. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for that, and also for the verbal update on how it's progressed since this went to print. That is also helpful and welcome. Members, do we have any questions for Paul on the progress report, please? You got off easy today, Paul. Okay then, as in your papers, the recommendation that the progress report be noted. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please, councillors? Councillor Jenny Fradley, thank you. Councillor Ostrander, seconding. Thank you. And all members in favour, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to the To item 13, the Accounting Policies Report. Could I please invite Richard Ball to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. As each year, we present the accounting policies that will be used in the preparation of the Statement of Accounts. These policies presented to you are for the 2025-26 annual accounts, and they are here for a recommendation that they should be approved. They are largely unchanged from last year, apart from section 7, V11 on page 284, and that's in regard to property, plant and equipment. That has been updated to reflect and comply with changes to the SITFA code in regard to indexation. Put simply, we were required to have our assets valued every 5 years, and we have had tabletop revaluations done within that 5-year period. It's a requirement now that all councils have appropriate indexation applied to their assets, and that's what that policy reflects now. Other than that, there's just been a couple of grammatical corrections, and those are the policies that will be used in the preparation of accounts in 8 days' time. Thank you, Chair, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Councillors, do you have any questions? Only very slight amendments just from previous, so. Councillor Keithley, did you have a question, please?
Well, I do, through you, Chair. Thank you very much. Yeah, on page 285, Richard, revaluations for each class of property, plant and equipment are undertaken using one of the following processes. A quinquennial revaluation. Is that every 4 years? Why doesn't it say that? Okay. Supplemented by annual indexation intervening. Is annual indexation, do you use CPI or RPI or something else?
I believe quinquennial is every 5 years.
Oh, sorry,
And
it's
basically
yes,
what I've
right.
just explained. So in the
5.
intervening years, you've got to use an appropriate indexation. So if there's an indexation for public toilets, that's the one you use to value our public toilets in. So there are quite a number
published indexes that you use.
There are specific indexes depending on what you're, you might be looking at a multi-storey car park. That indexation would be very different to a bandstand or something like that, for example. So it's just using an appropriate indexation.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Councillor Fradgley, please.
Can I just ask, does this actually resolve the ongoing problem that we've had for a couple of years of actually having that agreed baseline for accounting, or is that irrelevant at this point?
I believe you're talking, sorry, Chair, through you, Chair. I believe you're talking about the build back of the statement of accounts, so the brought forward figures. It doesn't overcome that issue, no, but this lays out how we will approach valuing assets and other approaches to how the statement is compiled. Just to add to that, whilst the last statement of accounts was compiled, the 24-25, some of that build back work was conducted. The assets have been fully revalued, so all the assets the auditors have signed off on. So it's just doing the other brought forward balances, and the next major one is the pension fund, and they're waiting for the triennial review of the pension fund to confirm those figures.
Could you bring the microphone closer to you, Councillor?
So
Fradgley, please.
The triennial pension has been come forward, that will then actually bring us to a level playing field to move forward.
We won't conclude until 27-28. That will be the statement we expect to get a full audit opinion on.
Councillors, do you have any further questions on this item on the agenda? Okay, the recommendation that the accounting policies will be used to complete the 2025-26 statements of accounts be approved, please. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Ogden, thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Rolfe, thank you very much. All in favour, please, councillors. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 14 is councillor questions. I haven't received any. And item 15 being urgent business. I don't have any urgent business been brought forward. So there be no further business. I declare this Audit and Standards Committee meeting closed. Thank you. I'll see you all on the 27th.